Welcome back to Virtual Reality Game Dev Ed. This is the 5th tutorial video for our friend codenamed B. By the way, everybody, if you hear a little bit of background noise, I apologize. I actually have a heater running behind me. I turned it off for the last couple of videos, but it got a little chilly in here again, so I had to turn that back on. Okay, in the last video we got into MonoDevelop. I just barely introduced it to us. We did a little bit of copy and pasting. Today we're actually going to get back into MonoDevelop and really do some real programming. I'm going to teach you what is actually going on in the program. Okay. So first of all, we want to go ahead and open up MonoDevelop. We have the smooth follow script and the my smooth follow, or whatever you named your script. First thing we want to do, what we're going to do today, is actually make our character shoot a little bit. I know a lot of people like to shoot at things, so we're going to go ahead and make our little character here shoot something. Okay? So, the very first thing we want to do is go ahead and right-click on your scripts folder and create a new JavaScript. I'm going to go ahead and call this shoot. You can call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And go ahead and double-click on that to open it. Okay. Now, first thing we want to do is go ahead and delete all this stuff up here. We want to actually leave the function update this time, because this is something, the shoot function is something we want to reset every frame, so we want it in the update function. Okay. So, to start off with, the very first thing we need to do is go ahead and go back into Unity and set some things up a little bit. Okay. First of all, go ahead and select your head, right? We want it to shoot from the head, right? So go ahead and add a game object, create an empty game object, okay? And set this a little bit in front of your guy. Make sure it's kind of centered. Yeah, let's put it right about center somewhere in front of your character. It's kind of a side view, make sure it's there in front of them. Okay, that looks good. Alright, now this, you can name it whatever you want, just remember the name. I'm going to go ahead and name mine shoot point. Okay, and then I want to actually make this a part of the head. Alright, so there we see our shoot point. Now that's first. Now, the next thing we want to do is actually, let's go ahead and select the shoot point, that way it makes it right there. The next thing we want to do is go ahead and add a sphere. Let's pull them out a little bit. Okay, now the sphere we want to actually scale down, let's say like 0.3 looks fine, right? Oop. Okay. Now we have a little ball. Yeah, let's make it a little bigger. Let's make it 0.5. Okay. And we want to give this little ball a little bit of color, so I'm going to go ahead and right-click on my materials folder, go ahead and create a new material. I'm going to go ahead and call mine blue. Click on your blue material or whatever you are making and set it up there, and then drag it onto your new little sphere. Okay, now the last thing we need to do with this little sphere, well, a couple things. I want to go ahead and rename it ball. Then you want to take off. You want to right click here on the sphere collider, remove that component, okay? While your ball is selected, come up here under component, go to physics, and we want to give it a rigid body. Now a rigid body works just like it sounds. It's rigid. It's makes it hard, right? So you can add force to it or any other kind of physics force like that, okay? Then we want to come back over our projects folder, our projects menu, right click down here in the open and create a new folder. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to ahead and name this prefabs. Okay, now what a prefab is a preset object, right? It's if we want objects that are going to be the same throughout the game, like our bullet, we want our little guy to shoot the same ball over and over and over. So we want to make that a prefab. Okay, I'm going to call this prefab ball for me. Whatever you name it, just remember the name. Okay. Then I'm going to drag my little ball in here and right there. Now we have this. We can see a little preview of our ball, and we see it has the same exact settings as this one. Also, this turns blue. It's now prefab connection. It has a connection to this. If I change this or have any other balls, I can actually drag extra balls into the scene, and they're all there. They're all the same. However, I don't need any of those. So I'm going to select all of these by holding down shift and clicking on the bottom one and delete all of those out of our scene now because we have the prefab over here. Okay. Now we get to make our script. Go back into the script. Alright. First thing we want to do is type var. Now that makes a variable up here in our inspector. We want to set this, we have to literally put our prefab in our script. We want it to generate our prefab. So we want to go ahead and call this variable, I'm just going to go ahead and make it simple and call it ball, and it's a transform variable, which means it will create an object. Okay, now under the function update, we want to shoot, right? Well, how do we shoot? Well, to shoot, we want to say if input, we want to press a button to do this, right? So we want to input, it's called get button down. This will return true if you have a certain button pressed down. Okay, now Unity has preset functions for these. This is a string. Get button down is a string variable, which means you need to use words. Show, we want to go ahead and use fire 1, and I will show you what that is and explain where that is, and we will actually be changing that because default fire 1 is like the left control button. We want to actually change that to the return key. Alright, because right now we're jumping with our space bar and we're moving with our arrow keys. We don't want to use our control buttons. We want to shoot with the return or enter key. So I'll show you how to do that. Now you want to go ahead and create a couple of these. Make sure inside. Now we're going to actually, just like this is a preset function by Unity. Like I said, the update function updates 30 times per second. That's once per frame. We want to actually create a new function. And this is how functions look. You start it with a capital and just end it with a couple of these. Alright? Always make sure you put these at the end of your lines like this. Okay, otherwise you'll have problems. Okay, now we have to actually define what our shoot function does, because that's not a preset function. We have to actually literally invent that function right now. So we'll want to write shoot and create a couple more of these. Tab. Now, what are we doing with the shoot function? We want to go ahead and create a new variable real quick to create a bullet, right? So now this is not a variable we want to see in our inspector. This is just a variable that this function is going to be using, so we want to create it inside our function. I'm just going to go ahead and call this variable bullet equals instantiate. Now, instantiate is a really kind of weird word, however, it works wonderful. What the instantiate does is it creates an object. It creates an instance of the object you want. Now, the thing about this is we have three parts with the instantiate function. First of all, let me go ahead and leave a note up here because we want to change to return key. Okay, we've got to remember to do that. Okay, now the first part we need to say, what are we making? What are we instantiating, right? The second part we want to say, where is it being made, right? And then the very third part, we want to tell it what direction we want our object to be made. Okay. Alright. So, now we have our 3 points here. Alright. Let's go ahead and add another space right there. That way we have our nice, easy room to work with. Actually, let's add a couple more spaces just so we have even more room. We can work right in the middle of those spaces. Okay. This is going to be a 2-part video as well because I'm almost out of time already. Man, this time flies so quickly. We only just barely got started. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop this video right here and pick up right where I left off. I will see you next time.